And out of their West Indian island comes a tale of terror and voodoo, of witchcraft and zombies.
And a farmer with the longest shotgun you've ever seen plays the villain.
This is Schlock Your Socks Off. And welcome to another episode of Schlock Your Socks Off. Once again, I am your humble host, Mike, with my two compatriots,
Maya.
Bree.
Oh, what's with that tone of voice,
Yeah,
Bree?
yeah,
You sound a little upset.
We're sorry to have you.
Yeah, jeez. All right, so I guess now would be the perfect time to tell you that this week we watched one of mine and Maya's all-time favorite movies.
And before we tell you what the title of the movie is, maybe we should just give them a brief synopsis. Maybe they can figure it out as they're hearing about it or not until the final reveal. It's about a young gentleman who has had a terrible, terrible life. His father molested him. His therapist molests him. His mom's a bitch. He's treated like shit. He's short and fat, so everybody always calls him a fat midget. He works a job at a parking garage where I think they're in. Are they in Britain?
Yes.
In Britain. And apparently everybody in Britain is a huge douchebag. Never been, but I could only imagine. So everybody's just always treating this poor guy like shit. And he has one thing that keeps him going throughout the day. And that is watching his favorite movie over and over and over and over again.
So, in case that description wasn't enough for you, we'll just come right out and say it. The movie we watched this week is the one, the only, the incomparable, the best sequel since Empire Strikes Back, the Human Centipede 2.
Ah!
Second sequence? Is that what it's called?
Full sequence.
Full sequence, that's what it is.
And as Mike said, we have both seen this movie, and we both love this movie just because we are freaks or we suck. I'm not sure, maybe both.
And we've both seen this movie more times than is healthy for a normal human being.
I couldn't even tell you how many times I've seen this movie. And we have it on DVD. We're not watching it on Netflix where they cut out... I'm reluctant to say all the good stuff because they cut out stuff that you could hardly call it good. But we did watch the full version as it's intended to be in black and white because the movie was made in black and white and brown.
Black and white and brown, only three colors in the movie.
But Brianna over here,
this was her first time seeing it.
yes, and we had just watched the first one recently, and
She was very disappointed because apparently she thought Maya said the first one was gross, which for those of you who've seen the entire Human Centipede series, that is certainly not the case.
well, if you look at it for what it is, they're sewing people from their mouth to ass to create one digestive tract, so they're shitting from one person to another person to another person. That alone is gross. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
And they claim it to be 100% medically accurate.
I bet it's like 60% medically accurate at best.
No, I'd say maybe 10%.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure someone could do it, but the thing would die.
Well, yeah, because that's the whole point of pooping. Your body digests everything usable from, the food you eat, and what you poop out is everything that is of no value to the human body. There's no more nutrients left.
Yep.
So now it's just poop.
Yeah.
I like how we're talking about this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe our one listener needs a lesson on how poo works.
yeah, and since it was Brianna's first time, I am just curious. What was your first impression of this movie? What did you think of this movie?
What did you think?
Excuse me. Well, so first going into it, it started off kind of, good. Oh my god. When I first saw the young gentleman, he wasn't even young. He was like probably mid-30s, late 30s,
Yeah,
I think.
Because his name's Martin.
Sure, and what happened at the beginning of the movie?
Well,
my
All right,
God.
so the movie opens up with our friend. Actually, the movie opens on the last scene from the original Human Centipede.
That's right.
Making you think that this is going to be a direct follow-up, which makes absolutely no sense because the doctor, he blows his brains out in the original
he's dead.
one.
Yeah, he's dead. He gets shot in the
And
head.
everybody except the chick in the middle of the three-man centipedes dead too. So the film ends with her just, sandwiched in between a dead Japanese guy and another dead chick. And she's just sobbing. Only one alive in this house, with her lips sewn to a man's ass and her ass sewn to a woman's mouth. And that's when the credits roll, and you realize that our main character, Martin, is watching the Human Centipede on a laptop.
And immediately, as the credits are rolling or whatever, he eventually gets to the point where he decides to rewind it. And he doesn't just start it from the beginning, like go top menu, like play again. He rewinds it. So he
Like a
has to...
VHS, which is really weird considering it's on a laptop.
Yeah, and I think he's doing that specifically just so he could watch it all again as it's rewinding, because he's just a fucking freak. And right away at the beginning of the movie, after he's done watching that, there's some asshole in the parking garage
And his girlfriend.
and they're like arguing. And Martin shows up, goes up to him with I want to say a crowbar and a gun.
Yep.
Goes up to them with a crowbar and a gun, and the dude starts talking shit because Martin's short, fat, retarded, and a midget.
And eyeballing dude's girlfriend.
Yep, eyeballing dude's girlfriend. But I think he's just kind of eyeballing anyway. He has that kind of look to him. And so they start giving him shit, and he shoots them in the foot, in the leg, in the stomach, wherever, gets them down on the ground, and eventually knocks them out and puts them in his van, where it's revealed there's already a person in his van already tied up, that he's clearly been doing this already. He just started, but we're seeing like the second and third people being added to whatever the hell he's doing. But this is a Human Centipede movie, so we know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, the title kind of gives it away.
Yeah, except he seems to have really like broad or high aspirations for himself. Like he gets a pretty bad rap for being who he is. He has a big plan. He has this big notebook that is dedicated to the first movie, and he's
all these drawings that
yeah.
he copied out of the first film.
Yeah, and he's quite the artist. Like, the dude has talent, and I think I'm giving him too much credit, but the book looks really good, and he went through a whole bunch of shit with this. He loves this fucking movie because he's a freak, and he just wants to make his own. What's so bad about that? Right, Brianna?
Other than the fact that, he spends the movie beating and kidnapping people.
But something I noticed throughout the movie, they make sure every single person that is added to the Centipede, or added to his collection of people, is they kind of make it seem like they deserve it because they're all terrible, terrible people. And it's as if there's no good people in this world, and they make it kind of seem like Martin, of all people, is like an anti-hero, even though he's doing the most terrible thing ever. Because all these people are just huge, huge assholes.
Well, that's true to a fault. The only one I would disagree with are the husband and wife, the pregnant lady. Because they're just trying to leave the parking garage, and he steps out from behind a wall, and from like 30 or like maybe 15 yards, didn't want to exaggerate, but yeah, from like 15 yards away, he clips the driver of the car with a bullet, and then manages to beat them both up, subdue them, and take them back to his little murder dungeon.
Yeah, and I wonder if he knew she was pregnant. I don't know what his plan was with that, considering in the first movie he needed to make sure they were all at similar height, similar blood type, or whatever to make it all work. In these, he's just grabbing people of all shapes and sizes that are just showing up. So he's just flying through people. I wouldn't say that there's a body count like your normal like horror movie. This isn't your normal horror movie. But he gathers together, I think, 12 people.
The movie still has a high body count, though, because he ends up putting them all out of their misery by the end of the film.
Yeah, he totally does, I can't believe Brianna watched this. I'm so sorry.
So let me ask you this before we get any further into the discussion of the film. Did you like it?
I did. I
Wow.
did like it.
Yeah, that's what, 2 now? Killer Clowns in Outer Space and this?
Well, I think she secretly liked Sabrina's Down Under, too.
Look, that movie it's a classic.
We all know her favorite's Mortal Kombat, though.
We're not going here again.
No, I had to say it.
Oh no.
Makes me want to dance thinking about it, honestly.
One thing I will say after seeing Human Centipede 2 so many times now is this movie is mostly silent in terms of there's not a lot of dialogue in this film. And after watching it again, I realized this movie could probably do with even less dialogue.
Yeah.
Because what is written in this film is honestly god awful. Especially when, like, anything that the mother says in this film. I don't know if it's just the writing, which is bad in and of itself, or if it's the writing coupled with her delivery.
No, I think
But
that's the biggest
it's so
problem.
bad, and it drags the movie down, even though it's a very small part of the film in and of itself.
And it works with what ends up coming to his mother's way, because it just seemed like any of the actors that got more lines weren't that good of actors. I don't need a good script in this at all, so that wasn't bothering me. I just think maybe some of the delivery was bad, but it didn't need to be good, because there was a plan. It's all part of the plan.
I will say this about Tom Six, the director of the franchise, though. He strikes me in certain ways as almost a George Lucas type. Very good with ideas and concepts, not a great writer by any stretch of the imagination, and from a technical standpoint, just a fine filmmaker.
Yeah, and I think his biggest asset is he came up with an original idea. That's what separates it. And I think I like the first one. I really like the second one, and the third one's fine. I'd watch the third one again.
Yeah, but the third one's nothing to write home about, in all honesty.
But to go from this one to the third one's just not as intense, and it's like on a bigger scale and stuff like that, and it's like it's filmed like a bigger budget movie, but it for some reason each of these movies has a different style, and I feel like it works for each movie, because the first one's like your classic like horror movie with the girls who get trapped in a house and there's this weird guy there, and the original concept was making them a human centipede. This one is a completely different movie.
Yeah, this is about a mentally handicapped man who's led such a terrible life that he's a dangerous psychopath and obsessed with this film and enacting out fantasies that because of his obsession with this film, which honestly makes it that much scarier.
No, for sure.
That's like, people are always making that argument in the media and stuff, like, violent movies and violent games make people violent. And this is one of those, well, what if scenarios? Like, what if there was this mentally challenged man who faced, close to 30 years of sexual abuse from people who had power over him? What if he finally snapped, became obsessed with a movie like that, and was like, fuck it, I'm going to sew people's asses to each other's mouths?
What's that line that Stu says in Scream? Oh no, what's
Billy?
his Billy
Loomis?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, where he's like, movies don't create
psychos.
They just make. He says,
They make psychos.
movies don't create psycho killers. They only make them better.
Or more creative.
Yeah, they make them more creative. That's what it is.
So
that's all, folks.
That's basically kind of what happened here. It's just,
We haven't even gotten to him making the centipede yet.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter of this movie. You can, honestly, if you're not going to like this movie, I would at least urge you to watch the final scene because of how disgusting it is. And, I mean, start from the point where he finally has his 12 victims.
But even at this point, we forgot to mention that there's random things in this movie that are just so ridiculous. Like he's masturbating to the Human Centipede movie with sandpaper, which is just, we glossed right over that. But that was also there somewhere. There's a picture of that in there, in between, right before he grabbed two girls to add to the centipede. But yes.
There are only two things in this entire movie that I thought were disgusting. One of them was there's close-ups of his face, and he like puts his fingers in his mouth, and some people like lick their finger before they flip a page, where he does that, and just
in a very sexual way, because he'll
keep his finger in his mouth for like.
Not only that, but he'll like run his finger around his lip like he's trying to be sexy about it, and you're just like, because we should also mention that Martin is not only is he a little person, not only is he mentally challenged, but he's not a good-looking man either. He's extremely obese, bug-eyed, has a terrible asthma problem.
His mother hates him to the point where
She tries to stab him in his sleep.
and the lights turn on and he is standing there watching her where she's stabbed, and she's all just staring at him all whatever, and he goes and lays in the spot where he was stabbing because his mother sucks, and he just like lays their stomach up. I don't know if she stabs him in the stomach enough times it's going to pierce. That's how big his belly is. But then she proceeds to, this is the part that grosses me out of everything in this movie, when she slits her wrist. I hate that shit. I hate wrists being slit. And she just does it right in front of him and starts to leave the room and finds his journal, his little Human Centipede arts and crafts project that that he worked oh so hard on. It's gone now because she fucked it up. And I think that that's what caused him to officially snap towards his mother, because at this point he already, I think, had 12 people. Like, he had the centipede.
No, he didn't, because he hadn't acquired the big tattooed guy yet.
That's right. The neighbor, which apparently always plays loud music, and the mother...
Loud bass trance music, and he comes in looking like he should have just come from a fucking Slayer concert.
Yeah, and because the mom, hits the broom up on the ceiling or whatever, and he comes down all pissed off, and she blames it on Martin, and Martin gets the shit kicked out of him. He starts
can
pissing
we
blood.
talk about that scene? Because watching it today really fucking bugged me.
Sure.
You know what bugs me about that scene?
What?
The first time that when the mom actually hits the broom on the ceiling, she opens the door, the dude enters, and then just stands there silently waiting for the mom to re-enter the scene and hit her mark before he goes off on his tirade.
That's
just like
directing.
Stuck out so bad. Like, he's literally just standing there all big and burly, looking back and forth. He's like, I gotta wait for her to get right there before I say my line. I can't say it yet. And so it just creates this like 3 to 5 second silent, awkward pause with like bass music in the background, and it sounds all muffled because it's supposed to be from a floor above, and you're just like,
and if you
what?
we watched it with subtitles, which I think helps a lot, but if you didn't have subtitles on, you might not even hear that music, so I could see that being even more awkward, not knowing what the hell was going on.
I never caught that before, but good God, like that stuck out to me, and I was like, why the fuck would they have done that? Why wouldn't they have thought of something more interesting to do? Like have them both go and answer the door and have that scene in the fucking hallway or whatever.
I think Tom Six was thinking what the audience was thinking, or what we were thinking. Let's get to the Human Centipede.
You're probably not far off from that.
No, you just didn't. I don't think he cared that much. But Martin snapped and ended up killing his mother by bashing her skull in
With his trusty fucking crowbar.
which he is a whiz with, and he's a great shot with his gun too. Like overall, like this guy is like a John McClane level retarded midget.
But he's not as fast because of how morbidly obese he is.
Yeah. Other than that.
Other than that, just like John McClane.
But so he kills the mother, ends up bringing that guy down there, beats him down after he puts the mother at the kitchen table and starts like eating with her there.
Yeah, that was a nice little... I feel like that was a send up to...
Psycho?
Yeah, to Psycho, because he just sits her down and he's having dinner with his dud mother, who he bashed her skull in so fucking bad. The only thing really left is her jaw and part of the skull that runs up to the crown. There was a hole in the front, a hole in the back, and just like 2 patches of hair where the top of her skull should have been.
I think he was just happy.
Fucking a gorgeous effect.
I think he was just happy that she wasn't bitching at him anymore.
He's just like, finally, it's
Some
fucking
silence.
quiet.
And then, of course, right when it's quiet for a second, he's eating his soup or whatever Martin's eat. The bass starts playing upstairs, and he hits the broom. The dude comes down. Martin beats him down, like John McClane, and adds him to his centipede. Was that the last person he added? And should we mention there was a kid in the backseat of one of the couple's cars that he also gathered. So there's a kid in the parking garage that he's walking past while he's doing all this, and the kid's just crying and stuff. So at this point, I think we have everybody at the location, at the warehouse that he loaned out with whatever money he saved up at the parking garage.
Didn't he take the driver of the car that the psychiatrist was in as well?
Did he take that car?
Or did he kill... No, he took the hooker. That's who he took. Yeah. That's the last victim that he acquires.
That's the last victim, because he...
And the really big guy that she had sex with.
Oh, you mean the guy who kept sniffing his fingers?
Did
Yeah.
he go to the centipede, or did he...
No, he went into the centipede.
Oh, man. So he just killed the therapist, then, who was getting his...
Because the dude wanted to fuck him. He even came out right and said, I would like to fuck that retarded boy.
While he's getting his dick sucked by a prostitute. Yeah, it's awfully ridiculous. And another line we glossed over in the beginning, while Martin's laying in bed, and later on, while he's just, like, thinking, being Martin... you hear his dad voiceover going, what was the line, Mike? I'm sure you remember.
Stop your tears now. You're only making Daddy's willy harder. Yeah, he's supposed to be dreaming about his dad molesting him, because you hear... It's all audio while the camera focuses on Martin, but you hear a baby crying, or probably a toddler, I don't know. You hear bed springs, and then you hear that voiceover from his dad. And we should also, one of the things that we bring up, because you were talking about how most of his victims seem like they really deserve it.
Yeah.
One of the first things his mother mentions in the film is that she blames her son for her pedophile husband going to jail, and she resents him for it. Like, she knows full and well that her husband was fucking the shit out of her retarded son, and she still is mad at the kid. Yeah. Like, she supports that. She reports kid fucking. It's so weird, and you're just like, okay, by the end of it, you're like, yeah, I'm glad he fucking killed her.
Yeah, she had
piece of shit.
Yeah, poor Martin. Poor Martin. The world's against him. But now at this point, we have all the bodies. Martin gathers up all the tools, a funnel, more tools than he could really ever need, a staple gun, and laxatives and stuff, and just gathers everything he could possibly need and goes to the location and gets a call from the ass part of the Centipede's agent from the first movie, saying, I think her name's Ashlyn Yenny or something.
Yep, that's what it is.
Ashlyn Yenny. That she is ready to go to a Quentin Tarantino audition, and he's going to pick her up and take her there. So she deserved it only because she thought that she would get into a Quentin Tarantino movie. So nothing else she did was wrong. She wrong place at the wrong time. And
yeah,
so
shame on her agents. You think they would have double checked and like, is Quentin Tarantino making a movie right now? He's not? Alright, yeah, this guy's full of shit. But they're sort of like, oh my god, Quentin Tarantino's making a movie! Except. And her client's dead now because of that.
Yeah, well, she wasn't getting that much work anyway.
We need to look that up at some point.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. I'm not sure. I haven't seen her in anything else. She wasn't in Human Centipede 3, in case anybody was wondering.
Well, that's because there was only one female role in Human Centipede 3, and it was filled by a porn star.
Brie Larson?
No, that's an actual actress, I think.
Oh.
An Oscar-winning actress.
Yeah, well, she should have been in it. So now he gathered her, and now he has the 12 people. The pregnant lady that he gathered, he thinks died, so he lays a tarp over her, and the baby seems to still be alive in her stomach, but he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't care at this point. And he starts working on the centipede, and it may be his first person that he starts working on when he starts cutting into their butt. They bleed out and die, so he loses another person for his centipede.
Wait. No. The first person I think he works on is the big guy who was renting the prostitute, and he bashes. This is the second thing that grossed me out. The second thing.
Yep. No.
I have to. Yeah, I have
Go
to.
ahead. Go ahead.
So as I first said, one of the two grossest things is when he like slowly
Touches his lip.
like he just puts his fingers in his mouth. That is first the grossest thing in this entire movie. The second thing is when he takes a hammer and starts bashing the teeth in on his first victim, and you can hear everything, and I'm fine with that. But he's making him lay back, so the blood's just gurgling, and then just like going down his throat. And I hate that because you know when you're at the dentist and like your mouth is just wide open, they're working on your teeth, and like some blood will go back, or like if you get a nosebleed, you're supposed to lean forward, not backward. So that's just two things that gross me out entirely out of the whole movie.
I too found that scene to be completely disturbing, just for different reasons than you. It's because I've had dental problems in my life, and tooth pain is really painful in my opinion. So if the two things that you can put into a scary movie that are going to make me want to vomit are people getting their teeth knocked out, or like people getting their fingernails ripped out. Those are the two things that will just like, I will shiver, I will start gagging, and like you saw me when we were watching this movie tonight. That's usually what I do when I watch Human Centipede 2 is when that part comes up where he starts knocking the teeth out, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go pretend like I don't know what's in the refrigerator right now. Just going to go rummaging real quick, see if I can find anything to eat, and hopefully by the time I'm done, we'll be moved on to something else.
No, I definitely gagged. No movie has ever made me done that before, but I didn't think I was going to throw up. I'm glad I didn't, but that part definitely made me gag multiple times to the point where I was tearing up. So, congratulations, movie.
But see, for me personally, I hate the idea of like getting my teeth bashed in just as much as the next person. But it's what they did right after, where they're like cutting the tendon on the knee so that they can't stand up. Shit like that bothers me more because I feel like I can like feel it happening to me rather than my teeth getting bashed in, because I don't know, I just can't imagine that.
See, I'm perfectly fine with things like that.
Yeah, me too.
It fucking makes me cringe. That and the wrists being slit. Fuck that noise. Ugh. That sounds terrible.
You're probably glad you didn't watch 13 Reasons Why then.
Oh, man.
Okay, is there anything about this movie that you really did not like, other than that whole blood trickling down the back of your throat?
I mean, I think you're supposed to really dislike the protagonist, the psycho murderer.
Martin?
Yeah, Martin. Martin.
I just felt bad for the guy.
No, in the beginning, yes, I felt bad for him too. I was like, this is so ridiculous. You know, this is, yeah, crappy, shitty childhood life. All of it together is horrible. But then, you know, in a really, really good action movie, or just a good movie in general, where like all of the, like the last episode of Game of Thrones, episode 4, I think, or it's episode 3, where
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, basically, the Dothraki and the Dany and her dragon just raise hell on the Lannisters. Like, it was amazing. Like, they just gave it all to us right at the end. And then this movie did the same thing. He stapled them all together. Everyone started, you know, because of the laxatives, you know, did their business.
Yeah, there's shit everywhere in this movie. That's where the one brown color comes from.
Yes, it's very artistic.
And it's even better because instead of it being natural poop like in Human Centipede 1, he can't get them to poop and they refuse to eat, so he takes some like medical grade liquid laxatives, fills a syringe, and just injects all of them till they're shitting all over the place.
Yeah, and with he put the actress Ashlyn Yenny at the very front, and ends up pulling out her tongue and putting a funnel down her throat and pouring soup down the funnel to try to get her to eat. Of course, it didn't do anything, so he had to resort to those laxatives. And every single one of those people was shitting all over the place. All the way down to the very last person, who I can't believe he even put it on the last person. How dare you? Like, what's the point?
Because he wants to see him shit on the wall.
Yeah, ridiculous.
All right, well...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Bree.
No.
Well, what he does next to the centipede might be the worst thing he does in the movie, right?
I don't know if that's in the, I guess, the Netflix cut of the film.
It's not, I don't think.
I'll say it. So, what he does is very, very simple. He wraps barbed wire around his member down there, and member, and he has sex. He rapes the last girl at the end.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, that was the girlfriend from the opening scene, correct?
Yeah, she's the girl from the very beginning. And so he rapes her. It's very violent. And then when he's done, the pregnant lady gets up and she just hauls ass out of the warehouse, locks herself in the nice Mercedes car, and she gives birth. And that's all that happens. And she
finally gets the car to start because she couldn't get it to start, and she gives birth to the baby while Martin's outside banging on the windows trying to get in, all Martin like, while it's pouring rain outside. And when she finally gets the car to start is the same time the baby gets about at the very bottom, and she kicks her foot forward with the baby, and the baby lands under the pedal of the car. So when she's revving backwards, the pedal crushes the infant newborn baby still attached by the cord, crushing its skull.
And then he goes back in and slits everyone's, or first, we're telling you the entire movie.
Yeah,
we're really telling you the entire movie. How about we can just watch it? It's a really interesting film.
I would agree with that. We've given enough away.
We really have.
Yeah. There's still, and here's the thing, there's still more.
Yeah, we've left out quite a bit.
There's still so much, and there's still the last 10 minutes of the movie that we have not mentioned.
And we will not.
And for the sake of not ruining anything else, that brings me to a topic I wanted to ask you guys while we were watching the film, but I thought I'd save it for right now so I could get first impressions.
Okay.
If you were part of a Human Centipede, where would you want to be?
That's an easy answer. I'd be on the front. And
really?
Mm-hmm. I would be the very front of the centipede, and I would be perfectly acceptable. I'd be the perfect centipede pet. You know how they're always kind of an asshole and don't do what they say? I'm going to do what he says because I'm going to live the longest, and I'm sorry, but someone's got to lead the centipede.
See, you're right that from a technical standpoint, the front of the Human Centipede is the best because you just got to shit in somebody's mouth.
What do you mean technical standpoint? Every standpoint.
But you gotta go realistically, because I mean, everybody knows being at the end of a Human Centipede is the worst, because then you're just shitting on the floor and getting somebody shitting in your mouth. But in reality, if you're gonna be part of like a 12-person Human Centipede, the reality of the situation is
the chances
you're gonna end up in the middle somewhere. And you know what? That's not that bad. Sure, somebody's shitting in your mouth, but I mean, you're shitting in somebody else's mouth, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
So the question should have been, where would you want to be in a 10-person centipede? Because a 3-person centipede, of course, the very front. And I'd love to be in the very front of a 10-person centipede too, but I guess...
If we're talking like a 10-person centipede, I would hope to be within the first 5. Because then the poo hasn't been recycled, close to 10 times by the time it gets in my digestive tract.
And one of those things where you're like waiting for your turn, you don't have to do that when you're like third or fourth.
Just get it out of the way so you're like, oh, that was disgusting. But at least it's over until the next time we eat.
At least I'm shitting in this person's mouth.
Could you imagine being like number 9 or 10 in a 12-person centipede where you're just like, oh God, here it comes. Okay, it's gone through 2 people. That leaves, 6 left for me? I don't know. I haven't eaten or drank anything in a few days. Really dehydrated my maths off. Oh God, it's getting closer. Oh Jesus, here it comes.
And there's still like 4 more people, and they're just like, man.
Yeah, by the time it actually gets to them, they're like dozing off back there, like, oh Jesus, I just swallowed poop. And I was so close to sleeping, and then I had to eat poop.
And you would think being at the very end would be okay, but since apparently people are raping centipedes with barbed wire, the back's not a good spot to be.
Yeah, be in the middle. You can't get raped in the middle. If you're a guy, all of your orifices will be occupied, and if you're a woman, 2/3 of them will be occupied, and it'll be very difficult to reach the third one.
I'd say the third and fourth spot, and since...
Oh, you mean right behind the knee?
Yeah.
The fourth hole?
But, okay, I guess we've really talked... I don't want to say any more about the movie, because I just want to keep talking about it, but no, they should see it.
Yeah, just go... If you haven't watched this movie, go see it. We all recommend it, but I warn you now, it's not for the faint of heart.
It's not for anybody.
If you are not a terrible human being, you'll probably hate this movie. And if you do hate this movie, tell us we're horrible human beings in the comments of this video.
And subscribe.
Yeah, shameless promotion, because we don't really do enough of that, and I feel like we kind of got to start, because I feel like our one viewer's getting bored being all alone and nobody to talk to about these things.
We lost them 24 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right about that. This is almost as long as the film itself.
At least the centipede sequence.
This is longer than the centipede sequence.
I like how this is the one movie that it's like the longest podcast. It's like, oh.
It's because we're very familiar.
And this is one of those things where if you see this movie, you'll understand a little bit more into the minds of Maya and myself, and the less likely you are going to want to hang out with us.
Yeah, well, you don't hang out with us anyway.
No, but I mean, now they really won't hang out with us.
Oh, no.
All right, well, I think we're going to call it a night, folks. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week. Hopefully we'll have something not so disgusting.
We'll see.
See ya!
Bye.
Oh, goodbye.